Hanny Time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Sandegriff.
And a pleasant good afternoon to you. Welcome to Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Sandegriff along with Mario Jerez and Taylor Sharp. Glad to have you with us. Scott Rabelais here in about 15 minutes. We'll do first class, second class, and no class in the third segment today, the bottom of the hour. Take some of your questions as well in the chat. Where were you a year ago today? A year ago today, right about this time, was walking in, maybe walking out. Maybe they did a little earlier than this. The Brian Kelly introductory press conference. Was hired a year ago yesterday. A year ago today was the opening presser, and he was impressive. There's nothing unimpressive about Brian Kelly when he speaks, and he had a command on the audience that day. But boy, there were a lot of unknowns. This is what I can tell you, that walking out of there that day, I felt like, this guy's going to get this thing, going to get it right, but he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a long way to go. And the only question I asked in the press conference that day was whether or not he planned to coach the bowl game, which he ended up not doing. But for that bowl game, they had 39 players. And when they got back from that bowl game, they had 48 players. Some of the guys that protected red shirts or rehabbing injuries or whatever. It's like, whew. And you're starting pretty down the list. What kind of odds would you have given that day that a year later LSU would be prepping for the SEC championship game? Impossible to one would be a pretty good guess. Let me ask you this way. Last year, LSU's regular season record was 6-6. It was a Max Johnson to Jeray Jenkins completion away from maybe being 5-7, which is what Auburn finished this year. And yesterday, Hugh Freeze had his introductory press conference. I don't know how many scholarship players Hugh Freeze is going to have at Auburn when he conducts his first real practice in the spring, but my guess is it's going to be more than Kelly had for his first. So what are the odds right now today on Auburn representing the Western Division in the SEC championship game next year? Not real good. The same impossible to one. Just to kind of put it into perspective, what kind of job Kelly did this year. You have to separate your feelings from now, which you've had a year's worth of progress and results to digest this. It's sometimes difficult to think about how you felt that day. If anybody had asked me what the chances were that LSU would be in the SEC championship game this year, frankly, I would have laughed. I would have said, "Come on, you're not being realistic here. It's not realistic to think that a guy who is inheriting a program that is a mess is going to be in Atlanta a year from now." Alabama's still in the division, right? But guess what? That's exactly where we are. Just to kind of give you that little roundness, a year later, 1 year later, how do you feel about it? Well, I don't know that he could have done any better. I guess in retrospect they could have won last week, have still a playoff spot on the line, but a rousing success for Brian Kelly. And unfortunately for the coaches that are being hired this year, especially if you're being hired in the Southeastern Conference's Western Division, Coach Freeze, this is what you're going to be held to. I remember very well when Bob Stoops won the national championship in his second year at Oklahoma, and the collective sentiment from coaches around the country was, "Oh bleep," because now this is what's expected. You used to have a little bit longer to get. Wait a minute, Stoops got it done in 2 years, and you can book it if Hugh Freeze doesn't have a good year next year. I'm not saying he's got to get to the SEC championship game, but if they go anywhere close to 5-7 again, like 6-6 or 7-5, they're going to say, well, you know what? The guy over at LSU, we're holding you to that standard. Every day we're going to hold you to the Saban standard because those guys are right down the street and they're our chief rival. We're going to hold you to the LSU standard. LSU went out, spent a bunch of money, brought their guy in, made it to the SEC championship game in 1 year. We expect the same thing from you. Welcome to Auburn. Just how it is. That's the way things are going. As we continue our countdown to the SEC championship game, a reminder on Friday we'll be in Atlanta. We'll be at the Big Kahuna, just down the street from the Hyatt and the Marriott for the shows on Friday afternoon. Jacob Hester will be with me. We're leaving Hunt home. There was something about he had a golf date that he had to get to, so we're going to leave Hunt home, and we'll take care of that show on Friday afternoon. Scone will do his show from Atlanta, from the Big Kahuna as well. So if you're making plans to go down there, love to see you at the Big Kahuna. Georgia, still a huge favorite in this ball game, and as we get into some of the, we start to dig into some of the matchups and stuff in this game, Stetson Bennett's name has come up because Stetson Bennett is a wonderful story. For a long time we called him the law firm of Stetson Bennett IV because he was, in and out of the lineup, was a overachiever. Well, over the last 2 years, he's established himself as a top-flight SEC quarterback and, a national champion and trying to be an SEC champion and a national champion this year. But last couple of games haven't been as strong as Stetson Bennett has been for most of the season. And Kirby Smart talked about whether or not he felt like Bennett was fading down the stretch.
I think he's played well. I think he's done what we've asked him to do. I think he continues to do that. Then we'll be successful because what we've asked him to do, he's done. He has played some formidable, good opponents, and he's played really well against those teams. He's had a couple of decisions I think he would like to have back, but he's also made some really, really spectacular plays. So sometimes when you put a lot on a player, you may get some of that. You may get a mistake. You may get something he wishes he had back, but he also has some really incredible plays.
He's had a lot of incredible plays over the course of the season, just not as many in the last 2 weeks. And the question bears watching because in the Kentucky game, which was a close game throughout, I mean, Kentucky had a realistic chance to win that game into the fourth quarter. It wasn't likely because Georgia just makes a play when Georgia has to make a play like they did against Mizzou. But it was possible. They weren't down 4 touchdowns the way Georgia Tech was. And in that game, they only asked Stetson Bennett to throw the ball 19 times. That was by far the fewest that he had thrown the ball in any game this year. The only other one that's even close is South Carolina, and Georgia won that game by 41 points. So there was nary a need to throw the ball. My point is there was a need to open up the offense and get some things doing at Kentucky, and Georgia chose not to try very much. 19 attempts in a game where you don't score a touchdown in the first half. You're like, hey, man, you're going to put it on the quarterback, and they didn't. He didn't throw a touchdown pass in that game. He threw an interception. So maybe something's dinged. There's a twinge somewhere. His shoulder's not whatever. Maybe he's just hurt. Maybe his foot hurts. Maybe his hand hurts. Who knows? A week later against Georgia Tech, a game that's a one-score game at the half. Georgia's a 5-touchdown favorite. It's a one-score game at the half. Stetson Bennett threw it even less than what he did against Kentucky. Only threw 18 passes. Now, he did throw 2 touchdowns in the game, and Georgia pulled away in the second half, and they were never – unlike the Kentucky game where they're one fluke play away from being in a real bind. Against Georgia Tech, they pulled away, and they were never really in – I never felt like they were in danger of losing that game. But the first half, still stands up. He's thrown the ball 37 times the last 2 weeks combined. The week before that, he threw the ball 37 times against Mississippi State. They have cut his workload in half in 2 games that were in question. Is it because he's fading, as the question was asked? Because he's hurting? Is it because they just tried to do that schematically? I don't know. Maybe there were things defensively that they saw that caused them to run the football. They won both games. They won the Kentucky game by 10 points. They won the Georgia Tech game by 23 points. They're still undefeated. They're still the champs. But you look at those numbers, you go, okay, that's a little bit different. Something else Kirby Smart's got to take into account is Harold Perkins, because if you're going to talk about Stetson Bennett, you really need to talk about Harold Perkins, because LSU would like Mr. Perkins to introduce himself to Mr. Bennett often on Saturday afternoon. So Kirby Smart talked about gearing up for 40.
You know where he's at when he's out there, right? They're going to use him in different ways. They've changed up the way they use him throughout the year. It's what good defensive coordinators do. They try to find different ways to put him in maybe a mismatch and utilize him. And you have to know where he is, and you need to know where he is at all times because he's really athletic. He is very disruptive, and you make your team aware of it.
Matt House's job for the week is to make sure that Harold Perkins doesn't spend most of Saturday afternoon outside the hash, that he spends more time rushing the quarterback and in the box than he does in coverage and outside the hash. That's something that teams have done to try to scheme Perkins out of their way. The other main storyline of the week, if you think Bennett may be fading, and maybe that's nothing but a mirage, the injury to Jaden Daniels was real, and his progress throughout the week is being monitored. Before we get a report from one of the LSU players on that, here's Kirby Smart about Jaden Daniels.
Everybody you talk to, he's way faster than you envisioned. He is athletic. He can go into super quick hyperspeed mode, run away from you, run around you. He stiff arms guys. He's really athletic, but it's not like he's one of these guys that can't throw. He's a pocket passer, and he's very polished. He throws the ball really, really well, and he's extremely athletic. So he's the combination that when you start saying, all right, what do I got to have to beat people in this league, is an athletic quarterback that can beat you with his arm, and he's that.
Can beat you with his arm, can beat you with his legs. Jaden Daniels is going to have to beat Georgia with his head, in my opinion. Because to do all of those things that Smart's talking about, and he's not wrong, Daniels has shown the ability to do all of those things sometimes. Other times, when it's gotten his head, he has not played as well. If he gets off to the proverbial good start, how often do we say that? He gets off to the proverbial good start, he starts rolling. Man, he plays well when the game is coming to him, and when there are mistakes made, he tends to tighten up. That'll be a big, big thing to watch on Saturday. How much of that has to do with his health? How good does Jaden Daniels feel? Mason Taylor was asked yesterday. This is short, but it's about as much as you're going to get out of the LSU camp. This was Taylor talking about Jaden Daniels at practice.
How's Jaden looking in practice lately? Is he active at all?
Oh, yeah, he's active. He's looking good.
That's it. That's the whole quote. Active, looking good. So unless they told Mason Taylor, who doesn't talk to the media very much, the freshmen don't talk to the media very much, unless they sent Mason Taylor out there to tell a tale about Jaden Daniels, I'll take the young man at his word. We know this is the year for coy about your quarterbacks. How many games this year have we seen quarterbacks go out dressed, go through warm-ups, and nobody knows that they're going to play until 3 minutes before the opening kickoff? I mean, the LSU-Arkansas game, we're watching as they do the selections. This is in the last, 10 minutes of game day, right? And Herbstreit's there going, hey, Bear's telling me in my ear that KJ Jefferson's not playing. And that wasn't the only game that Arkansas did that with KJ Jefferson. Oklahoma with, Dylan Gabriel. There's countless other examples. Jalen Daniels at Kansas was another one. Hey, is he going to play or is he not going to play? Louisville with Malik Cunningham. There's been others, and I imagine that LSU is going to hold this as close to the vest as they can. If Daniels is, limited at all, we won't know that until either the game starts or maybe even after the game. But that was Taylor talking about Jaden Daniels. The other one I wanted to play for you was from Mekhi Garner, and this is I really should have played this after the Stetson Bennett quote. That was how I had this listed to do, and then I got sidetracked. Mekhi Garner talking about defending Stetson Bennett.
He's a hard guy to stop now. He can make throws on the run. He's faster than what you think, but we just got to play our one assignment, do our 111, and the rest will handle itself.
I was glad to hear him say that because I think it's absolutely true. You look at Stetson Bennett getting off the bus, and there's nothing special looking about this kid. Okay, he's 5'11". He's 190 pounds. He was not highly recruited. If he came to you with the Georgia gear on and you said he was a part of Georgia's sports information staff, you would probably say, okay. But the truth is that he's a much better player than maybe he's given credit for, and he's a much better athlete. I've seen that. I've seen him escape some situations this year that I didn't think he had that in him. You can say, well, Georgia's propped up with a bunch of, outlandish skill position people last year, and this year he's being asked to do more. But the guy's made a lot of plays. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He can make some plays with his feet when he has to, and LSU's aware of all of that. And yeah, he's a little bit faster, maybe a lot faster than he would appear to be. So I thought I'd play you that one on Mekhi Garner. We'll take a break. We'll come back, talk more SEC championship game with Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. That is next. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Now, tomorrow is December the 1st. We are into holiday party season. If your holiday party includes you making some gumbo or another rice dish, make it with Supreme Rice. First of all, you're going to stretch your food dollars. So if you're having a big family gathering or a Christmas party, you got to make a lot of food. You're going to save a lot of money when you do it with Supreme Rice. And you're going to support our Louisiana farmers at the same time. Down in Crowley, Louisiana since the 1930s. All of our Supreme Rice grown, milled, and processed down in Southwest Louisiana. So whether it's the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the Jasmine Supreme Rice, going to jazz up your next meal and save you some money doing it. Get it at all your AG food stores, your Walmarts, your Costco's, and your Winn-Dixie's. Make it Supreme Rice. For more information, some unique recipes, if you're looking for something different here during the holidays, go to supremerice.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
My dad just really enjoyed his life, and he enjoyed smoking cigars and thought he was invincible. My stepdad quit smoking, and he really felt like he was in the clear. Sorry. I wish they would have been screened annually. It's not just you affect, it's your entire family.
For more information on Ochsner's free smoking cessation program and to see if you qualify for early lung screenings, visit ochsner.org/quit.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, for the Wednesday edition of Game Time. We're live at Finbom at Burbank and Lee, right next to Rouse's. Picks. Got a ton of them for you for this week's Conference Championship weekend on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com. Podcast, Hannycast is also available there and wherever you get podcasts. Let's bring in Scott Rabelais from The Advocate. Rab, how you doing?
Charles, you spouted down, baby.
Yeah, just a couple of days away from getting going in Georgia. You know, I was only watching for one thing with the playoff rankings last night, and I didn't watch the show. I just wanted to see the rankings when they were done. I was only interested to see if Ohio State was ahead of Alabama. They were, and I immediately lost interest in the rest of this thing. So let me just get your opinion. Georgia and Michigan are in, win or lose. Do you think TCU is in the playoff, win or lose?
I think they got a lot of quality wins, but I wouldn't say that they're in, win or lose regardless. I don't think it's a lock as it is, I think, for Georgia and Michigan.
I don't think they can get blown out, but I think if they lost at a field goal at the gun, it would probably be enough. So that leaves USC, and if USC loses to Utah, Ohio State slides into the 4 slot, and that's it. The only way Alabama gets in is if TCU gets routed, USC gets beat, and then I go somewhere and just throw my guts up, right? That's it?
I think Ohio State would deserve to get in. They're a one-loss team. Alabama's a two-loss team. I do think, and there was some complaints, and some people in the media wrote something about it last night who covered Tennessee. Why is Tennessee behind Alabama? It might not be a popular opinion. I do think Alabama deserves to be ahead of Tennessee because Alabama had two very close losses on the final play of the game, while Tennessee got handled by Georgia and just smoked by South Carolina. So I know head-to-head, but it's not all just head-to-head. So I think Alabama deserves to be where they are, but I think they pretty much have a ceiling on them, barring something. And that's the most important thing, right? Does Alabama be kept out of the playoff? That's the most important thing we're talking about.
It's definitely the most important thing, and I'm going to shock people right now when I tell you that I actually agree with you on that. The last rankings are about overall body of work. It's not just about head-to-head. And Tennessee got routed at South Carolina. I'm sorry. That's why LSU, they dropped LSU to 14. They could have dropped them to 24 as far as I was concerned. They went and got routed by a bad team in Texas A&M. Drop them as far as you want. They got the SEC championship game won't be affected. But if they had dropped LSU to 20 yesterday, okay, you know what? You've lost all your argument when you go to A&M and you get beat by 15 points. And I think Tennessee lost a lot of their argument when they went and got routed at South Carolina. I hope that the reasoning is that it's the whole body of work and they got routed by South Carolina. That's legitimate. If it's because Hendon Hooker is hurt, I think that's not fair. But I've been jousting at that windmill for years.
Right. No, look, I think they showed by beating Vanderbilt, and I wasn't sure that they would beat Vanderbilt. They just crushed them on Saturday without Hendon Hooker. I think they showed the committee that they're still a very viable team, a very good team, and deserving of a New Year's Six bowl and to be ranked where they are. But the committee has been concerned about Tennessee's defense all season long, and I don't think they think that on balance over the course of the entire year that they're just a little notch behind Alabama, even though they beat them head to head. So I think that's important. Hey, Charlie, I do want to ask you, if I could, real quick, what do you think of the CFP apparently giving the Rose Bowl an ultimatum, possibly as early as today, about being able to move the game off of January 1st or not, or you won't be part of the CFP when it expands?
I think it's fantastic. We had your colleague, your former colleague, Ross Dellinger, on yesterday to talk about this, and every advancement in college football's postseason, whether it's from the Bowl Alliance to the BCS to the 14 playoff to the 12-team playoff, the Rose Bowl's been the one holdout and the one dragging their feet. And while it's an important game and their history is unmatched, I get it. Time marches on, and you've got to go with it. And they're going to have to come to the realization that they may not have their day and time at every one of these things in the future. If they do want to stick to that, then they may end up with a deal where they get Washington State against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. If you're, just hell-bent on holding your day, your time, and your conference affiliations, well, it's Cougars and Hoosiers. Have a ball and see what you do with that. And you can put in the background of Washington State and Indiana this wonderful sunset, of the mountains, but you're not going to have a prime game. So I was delighted about that. I want to ask you about the Sugar Bowl. I remember very well the day that they announced that they were going to have a tie-in between the Big 12 and the SEC. And at the time they said, we'll either take their champion if they're not in the playoff, or we will take the next highest ranked teams out of these conferences. And this was to ensure that the Sugar Bowl never got stuck with Hawaii again. And I understood it. But at the time I laughed at it and I was like, okay, well, this is all fine and good, but there'll never be a playoff where the SEC and Big 12 champions aren't in the playoff. Well, guess what? Kansas State is in the Sugar Bowl, win or lose, on Saturday. And if they win and LSU wins, the Sugar Bowl will end up with the SEC champion against the Big 12 champion, because neither one of them will be in the playoff. And I would have never envisioned a scenario like that when they put this deal together.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And if LSU wins, they will be the first SEC champion not to make the college football playoff, which started in 2014, because they got 3 losses and they're not getting back in. So, it's they set it up as a Rose Bowl type format between those two conferences, and it helps ensure that they don't get the Group of 5 champion, like they're talking about Tulane. If they win Saturday over UCF, they win the AAC, they're going to the Cotton Bowl. The Sugar Bowl never has to deal with that. And not that, nothing against Tulane. They just never have to deal with that anymore. So it was a good deal for them, but you didn't think it would ever quite come to pass, from the SEC's perspective. But it certainly would be interesting. And of course, folks, to remember, this is all going away in a couple of years. Whenever the playoff expands, the Sugar Bowl very much, I think, wants to be part of the thing. They're going to be a semifinal or a quarterfinal game in the playoff each year. So that won't be in place anymore. But for now, it's a very interesting scenario.
The other thing that struck me about just looking at the playoff rankings going in here was the idea, and this happens every time they tweak the college football postseason, the traditionalists will say, well, this is going to dilute the value of the regular season, to which I say horse hockey. Here's what happened this past weekend that would have very much affected the 12-team playoff. Let's start with your LSU Tigers. They went from SEC Western Division champion and hosting a first-round playoff, if we're talking about a 12-team playoff, to out of the playoff altogether, okay? So tell me that game against Texas A&M didn't mean something. Clemson, with their non-conference loss to South Carolina, fell from a host site to a non-host site. Ohio State went from a first-round bye to having to play in the first round. Penn State played themselves into a host game in the first round of the playoffs. So Washington played themselves into the last spot in the playoffs going into championship weekend. Scott, I got to tell you, man, that's a lot of movement, and that's just off the top of my head, for the last week of the regular season. I don't buy that these games are not going to be every bit as important and every bit as watched as they always have been.
Charles, I have to admit, I was in the former camp, for a long time. Like, this is going to diminish the regular season. But, the more that you see the evidence of it, and Ross does a great job tweeting out every week when the rankings come out. He tweets out what the playoff format would look like if you had a 12-team playoff this year, and so it's very interesting. And the prospect of LSU, of course, right now they're not in position, but that an LSU could get to host a playoff game one day is in Tiger Stadium is pretty amazing. Now I have concerns. I have other concerns, like you got to ask fans to go on the road and go on the road and go on the road if their team keeps advancing. But that's they do that with the NCAA tournament. So we'll see about that. But it's it's going to be it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be something that people get excited about, and teams are going to be playing themselves in and out. It's kind of like when they went from we grew up in Major League Baseball, 2 divisions, right, in each league, and now you have 3 divisions, and the wild card. It's like, well, what does that mean in the regular season? Well, it means teams are playing for these spots at the very end, and it's exciting. So obviously, it's going to be a similar feel to it when college football playoff does expand, depending on what the Rose Bowl decides to do.
Yeah. If the clock's ticking on the Rose Bowl today, then all the better. All right, before we let you go, can LSU beat Georgia and how?
Charles, they have a chance. Sure. I mean, it's college football. I think Georgia is not quite as dominant. They've had times when they've not looked as dominant against Missouri, against Kentucky, but they are a very good team, a relentless team. LSU's got to. Jaden Daniels has got to be able to be a two-way player, right? He's got to be that dual threat with the ankle. Can he do that? Josh Williams has to come back and play. Harold Perkins has to have a chance to be a disruptive force like he's been in past games. Like as you said on your show yesterday, they A&M kind of took him out of that. And B.J. Ojolari, they've got to make individual plays, and Georgia probably has to help a little bit by being that team that has struggled in the red zone at times. So they've got a chance. I'm not picking LSU to win, but I think they definitely do have a chance in the game, a puncher's chance, as you like to say.
I do like to say that come on out and see us at Big Kahuna on Friday. We'll get you a burger and a cocktail. Scott, come by and see us.
I will look you guys up. Thanks, Charlie.
All right, we're right down the street from the Hyde. Scott Rabelais from The Advocate covering LSU football. We'll take a break. First class, second class, no class when we return. Anytime, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Anytime.
You own a business. What is your biggest problem right now? Is it staffing? Might be. For a lot of businesses, it is, because it's time-consuming and it's frustrating. Interviews, background checks, all of your screening and training, your payroll expenses, all of those things can be taken care of by Tiger Labor and Staffing. Listen, you don't want to have to worry about no-show interviews. You don't have to worry about unqualified people. You don't have to worry about those long background checks. Tiger Labor and Staffing will help you handle the interview process and the onboarding. When you need temporary employees, this is an unbelievable time saver for you, and it increases your efficiency. Whether you need somebody for a day, a week, or a month, Tiger Labor and Staffing can control your labor expenses, increase your flexibility, particularly if you need somebody, seasonal employees here during the holiday season. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcome skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits, quick turnarounds on pay. Get your work done without the worries. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
This summer, meet Acura's heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Summer of Performance.
This summer, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the MDX.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Light beer shouldn't taste like water. Miller Lite has...
On Thursday's OTB, the final day before the crew goes to Atlanta. We'll dive deep on LSU, Georgia. Plus, start to look at the U.S. versus the Netherlands. All footy. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hanny Time. First class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
That no man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
My life had become like school on Sunday. No class.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
So I love the first classes this week because there were plenty of them, and I wanted to do multiple first class this week. Sometimes we do multiple no class. I want to do multiple first, not just because it's the holidays, but because there was some really cool stuff going on. I wanted to go first class Stephon Diggs. Did you see this? There's a kid in Detroit in the stands, and he's got a sign. It says, "All I want for Christmas is to play catch with Stephon Diggs." And Diggs, who is, this is the visiting team. I realized that they were playing a couple of games over there because of the snow in Buffalo. He goes and he pulls this kid out of the stands and says, "Come on, let's go." And so he goes out. Diggs throws him a pass, and then he says, "Okay, throw it back." And the kid throws one over by the sideline, and Diggs does like the little toe tap like you would in a real game. I mean, that's cool. All right. I understand he can't do that for the thousands and thousands of kids that would like to play catch with an NFL receiver, especially one as good as Stephon Diggs. But, hey, listen, one at a time. All you can do is all you can do. Kudos to Diggs, who could have just, walked by and went to the locker room and, "Hey, look, kid, I can't do this." No. Come on down. It's a really cool thing. That kid, if he lives to be 90 years old, will remember that. So, Stephon Diggs, really cool. I'm going to give you another one. Blake Corum, starting running back for Michigan. Heisman candidate. Getting ready for the biggest game of the year, biggest game of his life, doesn't know if he can play. Decides to take some time out of his schedule last week because he's got some extra NIL money. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, but this was Corum's statement to, I think it was the Detroit Free Press, was, "I wanted to do some good with my NIL money, so I wanted to buy 100 turkeys for less fortunate people that needed them." Well, this went over so well that there were some local charities that heard about it. They decided to match Corum's 100 turkeys, and I don't know what he spent on 100 turkeys. I don't care if it's 50 cents. It's 50 cents that he didn't have to spend. So not only does he get 100 turkeys, but other people heard about it. They bought another 100 turkeys, plus all of the fruits and vegetables and mac and cheese and some extras and all that stuff for people at Thanksgiving. Blake Corum had a ton of things on his mind last week, ton of things on his plate. Get healthy, play in Ohio State, chance to go to the playoffs, okay? Your Heisman candidacy potentially. And this NIL money is yours to keep. I mean, this is like Wheel of Fortune. You don't have to give it back. No. I want to do something this week for these people. Awesome. I mean, that is so cool. And the fact that the local charities, jumped on it, it reminded me a little bit of, when Burrow gave his speech with the Heisman, how many people in the food banks in different places in Ohio and Louisiana jumped in on that. So kudos to Blake Corum. And, here locally, we've got with some players doing some things as well. Harold Perkins, Major Burns, and Jaquilin Roy. This was it was posted a video by our friend Michael Cobble over at WBRZ, visiting kids in the hospital, and not just visiting with them, not just going through and doing a flyby, but actually there's a video of them dancing with one little girl at the hospital. And it should be noted, we don't talk about it often enough, and a lot of times they want to do these things a little bit quietly. The amount of time that the LSU athletes put in things like this is vastly underrated. I mean, it's I became aware of this probably 15 years ago, just how much they do that goes unnoticed or unpublicized. When, working with the network, I would have to be in the baseball office every day, pretty much during baseball season, or 5 days a week. And so you walk by the bulletin boards and things like that they had at the old box, and there was a thing posted. Hey, here's your sign-up sheet for your community service, okay, or your extras. And it was a lot of things. It was, they would go to schools and read to kids. They would go and they would go to the hospitals and do things like this. I remember during 2016, the basketball teams, the men's and the women's basketball teams, were out in Denham Springs helping victims of the flood, and Tasman Mitchell, being from there, was out at the middle of that. They do a lot of this stuff, and it doesn't get noticed, or it's caught up in all of the news cycle. They deserve a pat on the back. They deserve a thumbs up for doing this stuff, because being a student athlete at LSU is demanding on your time. Between the travel, the training, the practices, and school, and you'd like for them to have a little bit of a social life too. They work this stuff in, and it's most of the kids on campus are doing this. So this was a video that we saw. Kudos to Perkins and Burns and Roy for going out and do that. So first class to all of these athletes for giving some back this past week. My second class is Tulane. This may be the best week in the history of Tulane football. Not kidding, okay? Think about what the 7 days from last Saturday to this Saturday may entail. Now, it's not over yet, but last Friday, I should say, Tulane went to Cincinnati and beat the Bearcats in what turned out to be Luke Fickell's final game. I guess he's not coaching the bowl game, to win a spot in the American Championship game. This is the first time that Tulane will ever play in a conference championship game. They've won one conference title since the 1940s. That was in 1998, the Sean King team. They won the league title. They went undefeated, but that's it since the 40s. So not only did they put themselves in position to win a conference championship for only the second time since the 40s, they also put themselves, we found out last night, in position to be in a New Year's Six Bowl if they win this week against UCF. Because if they win that, they are guaranteed to be the highest-ranked Group of 5 team, and they got a spot waiting for them in the Cotton Bowl. How big of a deal is this? When's the last time Tulane's been to a bowl as big as the Cotton? Well, if it's been since the 1940s, since they last won a conference title, and the one conference title they did win in 1998, they went to the Liberty Bowl. No offense to the Liberty Bowl, but it's a pretty far step down from the Cotton. You got to go back to 1939, the Sugar Bowl in 1939, when Red Dawson was the head coach at Tulane. That's how far you got to go back to when they played in a bowl this significant. So there's something on the line for the Wave this weekend. And as significant as the week was from beating Cincinnati to be in the conference championship game and potentially beating UCF to be in the biggest bowl game they've been in since 1939. Something even bigger, I think, happened to Tulane in between that, which is that Willie Fritz shunned the overtures from Georgia Tech to be their head coach. Let me say that again. I understand Georgia Tech's not the University of Georgia, but it's still a Power 5 school. Tulane had a coach that a Power 5 school wanted, and he said no, and he stayed in New Orleans. That's a big deal. Because the last time they were this successful, it took Tuberville about 10 seconds to say yes to Clemson. Now, Clemson's a bigger job, and I'm not suggesting that Willie Fritz would have said no to Clemson if Dabo Swinney had suddenly retired. But it's still a big deal, okay? Or Tommy Bowden, excuse me, I said Tuberville. It took Tommy Bowden no time to say yes to Clemson, and I would have too. All right, that was the right move at the time. I'm not getting on Tommy Bowden. But to have the things happen to Tulane this past week, you want to talk about good with a chance to be great. Good on Friday. You put yourself in the championship game. Great to be able to hold on to a coach of caliber of Willie Fritz. And, generational. How many people that are Tulane fans, how many Tulane fans are there, that were around in 1939 to see him play in the Sugar Bowl would like to see him play in the Cotton Bowl? So Tulane, this week for Tulane football, best in my lifetime, and maybe the best ever. I think you could say this has been a hell of a week for Tulane. No class. ESPN did one of their confidentials. I love these things. I really do. They put them in the preseason magazine sometime, and the confidentials are they go talk to coaches, mostly assistants, but some head coaches, and they get a candid response to something. In the preseason magazines, they like to do get a scouting report on the opposition where they can actually talk about them. They don't have to say, well, they're a good, strong football team. They're well coached. We'll have to be at our – you can get away from the coach speak a little bit when you get to the anonymity. So they asked coaches throughout all of the Power 5 leagues who the best players were in the league, okay? Maybe some of them are obvious, but the guys that you don't you don't ever hear about. So when they got to the Southeastern Conference, I'm interested. I'm going to go read. And so the first people they talk about is Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers from Georgia. Well, those guys are really good, okay? I don't think you're surprising anybody by saying that. And then they got to Tennessee, and they were like Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, anybody can see that. And hey, guys, and Jeremy Banks from Tennessee, and Byron Young from Tennessee, and Darnell Wright from Tennessee, and Broderick Jones from Georgia. And I start counting down as I'm scrolling. D. Williams, Cooper Mays, Devon Achane, Quinshawn Judkins, Bryce Young. Oh, Bryce Young's good. No kidding. Zach Evans. I'm just scrolling through this thing, and I start counting names. 33 names. Harold Perkins' name ain't anywhere on this thing. Did they talk to anybody that played LSU? Call Lane Kiffin. Ask him. Call anybody on the Ole Miss offensive staff. Ask him. Call anybody on the Arkansas staff. Ask him. Call Nick Saban. Ask him. I mean, is it possible that they went through 33 players? Okay, I understand maybe they didn't call anybody on the LSU staff. Okay, they didn't have time to call all 14 staffs. Fine. But somebody on a staff somewhere played against LSU. You mean to tell how many coaches did you interview? Because you couldn't have interviewed very many if you don't have, out of all of the 33 best players in the SEC, and nobody from LSU made it? None? Did they skip over Baton Rouge when they did this thing? I mean, you went to College Station. They won the game. Cool. You went to Ole Miss. Cool. They had a good year. I mean, you went to they're talking about Florida guard Osiris Torrance, a kid from UL Lafayette. LSU recruited him. Good player, really good player. Going to be a pro. Going to be a pro for a long time. Will Rogers at Mississippi State. No problems there. Multiple guys from Alabama. Sure. Nobody voted for Harold Perkins? Really? Okay. Your list has no credibility now. You can't put 33 guys on a list and say these are the best players in the Southeastern Conference and just eliminate everybody at LSU. Come on, man. No class. I applaud the effort. I applaud the idea, but not the effort. You can't put this list together and just skip over an entire school. Now, this gives the people, the conspiracy theorists, way too much ammunition. They hate LSU. No, they really don't. Oh, well, maybe this time they do. Take a break, come back with your questions. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big music lineup at Big Mike's this weekend. Friday is the Honky Tonk Playboys, and Saturday, LSU at 3 o'clock. High Water at 7 o'clock, and Chris LeBlanc at 9. Zydeco Mike going to be there as well, and no cover charge for any of these events. Thursday night is karaoke. They'll also be celebrating the birthday of Joycelyn, Mrs. Big Mike. They'll be celebrating her birthday. So going to be a good time at Big Mike's all weekend long. You watch the LSU game there, obviously, on Saturday afternoon. Also, Sunday, NFL, it's happy hour drink prices. The Saints are on Monday Night Football, but the special remains at Big Mike's. Happy hour drink prices all throughout the NFL on Sunday afternoon. Holiday gift cards available. $30 in gift cards will get you $5 off your next visit. $50 will get you $10, and $100 will get you $20. That's your Mike's gift card special, and you can book your holiday parties there. Catering available from Big Mike's as well. On Aspen in Denham Springs, Big Mike's were kind of a big deal.
Professional golfers John Peterson and J.J. Colleen answer all your golf and life questions inside the new Drop Biscuit Studios podcast for the people. Download or subscribe today at dropbiscuit.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. Don't forget our nightly drink specials.
Semifinals in the Prep Football Playoffs, and we get started Friday night at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Catholic High and John Curtis kick off at 7, and that's immediately followed by the Lake Urgent Care Total Occupational Medicine Louisiana Prep Scoreboard Show on YouTube, Your View, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And time for a couple of quick questions. Ask Hanny, what's your favorite Breck golf course? I don't play. I know the amount of time that is required to practice to be just competent at golf, to where you just don't go out there and really make it an unenjoyable experience. I play once a year in a golf tournament, a charity golf tournament put on by a close friend of mine, and that's it. So I'm the wrong person to ask for that. Ask Hanny, what's your prediction of the top four after this weekend? I think there's a good chance that Kansas State's going to beat TCU, but I think that the four teams remain the same, but in a different order. I could see it being Georgia, Michigan, USC, TCU is kind of the way I see it. And if TCU lost in a major fashion, Ohio State sliding into that spot. Ask Charlie, who's Harold Perkins? Ask the guys at ESPN. I don't know. Ask whoever put this list together. The Hunt Palmer Variety Show is next for Taylor and Mario. I'm Charles Hannegriff saying thank you and good afternoon. It's been Hanny Time. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. And you know what? When it's time to buy a vehicle, I'm going to Acura and Infinity. And the pre-owned packages are just fantastic. With a certified package, you get a 167-point inspection on your vehicle. It's going to be up to code. Complimentary first-year basic maintenance and a 6-year unlimited mileage warranty. A 3-month trial subscription to satellite radio from Sirius is free. Carfax is going to give you a vehicle history report and a 3-year buyback guarantee. You're going to receive emergency roadside assistance and a complimentary service courtesy vehicle. All of these available at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge, where there's transparency in pricing and a family feel to it. That's why we're buying cars again and again from Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.